notes I have, they go along with the handouts that I provided, so you can follow along if you'd like. And first off, before I discuss either handout, I want to mention some context that is important to consider for both of the readings. So the big thing that both of these readings sort of come from is the major discovery in 2010 where the remains of a hominin finger were found in a Siberian Denisova cave. In that cave, and the finger provided DNA evidence that it was not a Neanderthal and it was not a Homo sapien. It was something brand new, so they decided to name it Denisovan after the name of that cave. Alright, so in the Tangled Roots or the Bruce Bauer reading, this one came out in 2012, so that is a bit of time after that initial discovery. People would come up with many theories, and Bauer sort of put them together for us to read. The major takeaway that I had from the entire article was that there's a great evidence of interbreeding occurring between hominins, and that leads to a lot of new ideas. Two major theories that were highlighted in this reading were they opposed the sort of well-established out of Africa hypothesis. The two theories that there are assimilation, which sort of is described by interbreeding leading to all the hominins that sort of like breed into one species. So it's saying rather than these species sort of going off and going extinct, they sort of all form into one species through interbreeding. And then the other theory we have is the multi-regional theory, and this is sort of saying that the known hominins from the past are more or less a subspecies and are just slightly adapted to their respective environments. So yeah, it's sort of calling them one species. And so Bauer gives both of these theories a fighting chance. And he ends this article by telling us to look to Asia to find more answers. Alright, so for the next handout, I called it the Denisova Cave reading. The author is David Reich. This one is from 2010, so it is much closer to the actual discovery in the Denisova Cave. So Reich and the team came up with their ways to study these findings. So Reich is a geneticist, right? And he and his team studied the DNA that they found and used a bunch of different methods to get sort of a clear picture of clear as they could of what was going on. They used methods like testing living populations' DNA and testing other fossil DNA in this sort of comparative analysis of the DNA that they had. And I like this article because this is not something I'm super familiar with, is this genetic studies. And one thing that I thought was cool that I learned about was how they discussed human contamination. Apparently it's very unavoidable, but they have these tricks to kind of get around it. So after all this testing that has sort of gone through in the reading, the conclusion that I found most apparent in the discussion section was that the Denisovans were a sister group to the Neanderthals. So looking over both of the readings, we have this reading that's sort of just a big discussion of all the theories that we have by 2012. And then this 2010 reading is a robust study of its own, where this team looked at all these different components that they could, just to try and throw their hat into the ring, into paving the way a little bit. The Denisovan Discovery, it led to many new ideas about our past, but we still don't know a whole lot about what things are like back then. That being said, with all the methods we can use on the little evidence that we have, it is pretty impressive what we can find out and at least theorize. So there are a lot of theories to kind of sift through when you're researching this, and it's hard as somebody who's not an expert, and like many other students, you can't really confidently sort of agree with any of them. Mostly when you look at these things, you kind of just gotta agree with whatever's being presented to you, because it's the more and more I look at evidence that they sort of provide for these theories, the better understanding I feel I get. But still, when there's sort of evidence like this, these genetic studies with the DNA, I sort of I find myself having to sort of just go along with it. So that's something that I find interesting to work on, is when I'm reading papers like this, to sort of I know I'm like learning a lot about how these procedures are done, but yeah, there's a lot to unpack here. So yeah, I have the discussion questions posted on this, so I think you just gotta handle those, and we will be in the forums chatting it up. Thank you for listening to my little audio. Peace and love.